Welcome to Too Many Cooks in the Kitchen.
Today we're talking about soil health, a subject my mom should know,
Deeply.
yes, very deeply. I was going to say an infinite amount, but that's that's a lot.
Uh,
But she has a degree in soil science of some kind. I don't know exactly what the title of your degree is. I know it's long, or I think it is at least.
yes, I have a doctorate of philosophy of soil science with a specialization in soil fertility.
Yes, see, a mouthful. But nonetheless, you should know tons about the subject. So I'm excited to learn because I know very little about soil health or the connection between soil health and the human body, other than what I've learned from Zach Bush. So I'm looking forward to learning a lot more today, and I have lots of questions already written down, and maybe hopefully you'll answer them before I even have to ask questions. So,
Awesome. I'm
without
excited.
further ado, teach me.
Okay. Well, first, I suppose I should talk a little bit about why I went back to school to get my soil science degree. Um, and part of it has to do with I had my bed and breakfast and unfortunately didn't work out to continue on. Those interested could grab the copy of my book Between Farm and Fork and learn all about that. However, I needed a new path in life, and so I looked for a degree program, and it was Sustainable Agriculture and Food Systems. It linked very closely with my food degree and my interest in sustainable food systems. So I did that and then realized I really enjoyed school. So I kept going all the way until I got my PhD in soil science. And partly because I was so concerned with the health of our food and the linkage to also our health of our planet and how we produce our food in a sustainable and more regenerative way. And that is really the main driver as to why I ended up getting that degree, was because I wanted to make a difference in both the planet health and our food health. And I thought, from my point of view and my background, I would be able to really make those connections and push the needle, hopefully, forward. So we have better food that's fueling our bodies and not degrading our planet at the same time. So
Well,
what you
that's
got for me,
an
good?
admirable mission,
Why,
and
thank
I
you.
think you'll be able to make a large amount of difference now that you're on this path. Not that you couldn't have made a difference in people's lives with cooking, which obviously changed my life with cooking, and it's still a part of your life. But I think this is a mission that'll reach a lot more people. So
Yeah, I think, and that's, I think, one of the reasons why we're doing this podcast too, right? So it's not just for me to
exactly.
wax poetic about soil, but it is educate anyone who's listening on how when you go to the grocery store and you go to pick up your fruits and vegetables and other things, is how does that get to the plate, and what went into getting that food either healthy or not, and what things can we do to make it even more healthy? So hit me with some tough questions.
First, does the regenerative label on products in stores hold any weight? And is it worth spending the extra money on these types of products? So, I don't know if anyone else is aware of this. I mean, I'm sure some people are, but if you're not aware of it, there are products in the grocery store in addition to an organic label. Products have started to reach the market, and I primarily just shop at the grocery store. I don't shop at farmers markets and things like that, generally just because they're not within my close vicinity, or when they are, I'm usually working or busy. So, but at the grocery store, there are now these labels and it says regeneratively raised. and it is supposed to symbolize that it is grown in this way that is better for the soil, better for the earth, but also therefore better for, the consumer. So I'm just wondering, like, does that matter? Because I definitely spend a lot of extra money on these types of products because I care about my health and the health of the earth. But is it actually benefiting either of us? That's my
Well,
question.
it is a deep subject for sure. So, first off, regenerative agriculture is often believed to be similar, synonymous to sustainable agriculture. The two are, in my mind, slightly different. And I look at it as that if you have two people, one is healthy and one is sick, the healthy person may want to sustain that. But I don't think the sick person probably does, right? So if you think about our planet, is it healthy right now? Or is the soil healthy?
Not
So if
really.
you're on a space that the soil is healthy, you don't need to necessarily regenerate it. But most of our soils have been degraded through years of tillage and other things and lack of putting additional organic matter on there. So because of that, there is really a movement to regenerate and bring back soil health. So that is kind of the basis for regeneration. But it really is just everything old is new again. And it is really just using indigenous people's practices that they used for years and years before the industrial food complex came along. And so, although there's lots of people who want to take credit for them using regenerative, in actuality, they are using practices that are age old practices that have caretaken the land for millennia. So it's really not new, but it is bringing it back to the forefront. And in my mind, I know there's people who argue about who gets credit for what. I think that gets too much weight, and we need to put more emphasis on as long as the end result is that we have soil health out there and we begin to caretake our land, then it's that other stuff doesn't matter. Now, one thing I do want to talk about is organic. There is a lot of people out there who believe that if they just buy organic, they won't have anything sprayed on their food. And I do want to say that organic just means that it is not sprayed with a synthetic pesticide or herbicide. It does not mean it is not sprayed at all. An apple that is organic may be sprayed 25 times. An apple that is non organic may only be sprayed 15 times. That's the reason why it's actually more expensive, is because the labor to produce that organic apple. However, they're using an organic labeled type of treatment to reduce the pests and diseases and weeds. Well, weed management, actually, they actually are now. There's vinegar based herbicides that they can use so that they don't have to till, because one of the biggest problems with organic is it doesn't necessarily mean it leads to good soil health, because there is a lot of soil disturbance to deal with the weeds. So if you're looking at buying something that's labeled regenerative, you have to dig into who is labeling that. There are third party people that farm may pay them to come out and ensure that they are under some certain parameter following some regenerative agriculture practices. However, regenerative agriculture is yet to be defined. And so when people use the label regenerative, they
Yeah,
could
it's
mean all
never
sorts.
like a certified label. Like the organic, how it's a little circle and it says certified organic. It's
Yes.
never it's just regeneratively raised or regeneratively grown, and it's just like thrown on there. You don't know if you can necessarily trust it because it's not.
True. It's true. Well, and some of it is like organic. When it started out, there were many different states or many different organizations that had organic. This was
Mhm.
before the USDA got involved. A lot of it started out in Maine with MOFGA, which is the Maine Organic Farming Association. Um, And they had their own, and then you had someone else in another state who had theirs, and so what the USDA wanted to do was just kind of make it so it meant the same thing no matter where you went. When they did that, though, to help, I guess, open the door for more competition, they actually took the regulation from what was a lot of people using 5 years of not having any commercial synthetic things used on a land, that they lowered it to 3. So there are a lot of people who will argue that by getting kind of regulated, it ended up loosening some of the premise of and weakening what is meant by organic. And there is a lot of people that are fearful that the same thing is going to happen to regenerative because the USDA is currently working on um, actually defining the term, and they have open comment, they're getting and reaching broad. So if you are very concerned about that, certainly, look up and see if you can get in on the comment period to have your voice heard. This is something that's happening, and only those in the regenerative movement know. So certainly one that is important to get involved if that is something you're passionate about. Um, I believe that it's best, honestly, to know your farmer if you can, buy local from, as much as you
Farmers
can.
markets, farm stands, if they're available to you.
And if the grocery store has locally raised or locally now
Yeah,
local, sometimes that could be like 1,000 miles. Whoa, it's local.
yeah.
It's in the United States, it's local. So really do your homework, right? Before spending money for a claim that isn't necessarily true.
So that being said, do you think it's worth spending the extra money on things that are labeled with that?
No,
No.
I don't. I believe more that it should be grass-fed, if you're looking pasture-raised or, a local fruits and vegetables, are kind of more
What about
if you
things like
know where it came from. Huh?
grains, like rice and oats and things like that that are packaged like that?
I would say, yes, it is, as long as you are looking into that company
Mm,
and seeing that they're more than just a claim.
mhm.
And that is yes, it does take a little bit of, the onus on the person buying it to determine whether that is a true claim or not. Most of them are doing things now that are for sure creating regenerative practices. And there are third party labels that are kind of going out there and actually certifying and making sure that those farms are actually doing the thing that they claim. Like even Wrangler Jeans is getting cotton from farmers
Mhm.
who use soil health practices, use cover crops, use regenerative practices. And the Soil Health Institute has a lot of influence in ensuring that, like General Mills is doing regenerative agriculture, lots of other companies are getting into it. And they're doing it both for the bottom line, of course. However, they also truly realize that if they do not regenerate their soils, they won't have any product to be able to make
Yeah.
their stuff out. And so it
Mhm.
behooves them to ensure that they are caretaking the topsoil that's left. What
Alright.
else you got?
Well, you've answered a couple of them already, I feel like, but I guess I'll ask this one. Uh, if this way of growing is so much better for human and environmental health, why aren't more producers adopting these practices?
So that's a really good question and a loaded question. The reason why there are farmers who don't necessarily adopt them, and this is not the 100% reason, there are multiple different reasons, one of them being not having the knowledge or ability to practice that because that's an investment in additional equipment and a different way to do things. There are some that are slow to adoption, but there are also many farmers actually don't own the land that they farm when you're looking at large acreage. And that's most of what our farming is out west when they have thousands and thousands of acres. Those are leased land. So someone may own the land and you have the landowner, and then you have the land leaser, which is generally the farmer. And there is some really interesting research done by Dr. Diana Bagdall out of Texas A&M, who did a sociological research for her PhD on the adoption of cover crops and why there was a low adoption rate. Because cover crop usage and soil health practices have been around since after the Dust Bowl, really. So we're talking almost 100 years now. And why are we still having this conversation of why don't more people use these practices? And it's really the landowner has an idea in their head that the land needs to look nice and clean. Like if you go Google farm, what do you see? You see a tractor and it's tilling, and you see this
Mhm.
nice brown soil, and you see
Row.
nothing growing,
Yeah.
and the beautiful little rows, everything all
Yeah.
nice and neat. And if you ever look at a cover crop field, it looks like a weedy mess.
Mm.
And so a farmer who wants to adopt this will be told by the landowner, like, hey, you got to fix this. I don't want my land looking like that mess. You're going to farm the way I want you to farm because the landowner owns it. They have precedent over what that farmer can do. And that's
Mhm.
the interesting thing is that that was
Like
the
living in
biggest.
an apartment, you can only do what the landlord allows you to do. You can't paint the walls or what. I mean, I suppose you could, but might ask you to change it. Or
Yeah,
you
if
won't
you're
get your
going to be there
deposit
for long.
back.
Well, that is where I guess, like, if you're gonna go, rent something, whether that be land or an apartment, is if you're interested in that, having that conversation first before signing on the line, right? So that's one of those things where I think, there is potential to have the conversation, and maybe you're interested in adopting it, and that is trying to educate the landowner. But frankly, farming is hard, and do you really I mean, maybe the farmer just doesn't have the energy to go into that conversation. That
Yeah.
is kinda unfortunate, but there is or were incentives, to do more. The USDA has more and more incentive programs that help farmers to do that, and so the biggest thing is then the landowners and then educating them. And perhaps this program and others like it can continue to help educate the public on what soil health is and why cover crops matter because they're so important in feeding the microbes that are below the soil, which just like our gut microbiome needs to be fed by fiber and things that we put in it, it's the same with soil. Soil is healthy because it has living microbes in it, and you need to feed them. They eat carbohydrates, and that is from the roots or other organic matter that's in the soil.
Much better. Sun's not in my eyes. I can actually see. All right.
You've lost your glow. You're glistening. Much
I'm
better.
always glowing from the inside out anyways.
There we go. All right. What other questions do you have?
How does one go about sourcing better regeneratively or just food grown for or grown with better practices for themselves and their family? Are there any resources that can connect consumers with farms practicing this better way of growing?
Yes, there are a couple of websites, I know national websites that will list all of the farmers markets and other places to get fresh fruits and vegetables. You know, they don't just sell fruits and vegetables at the farmers market. I know ours is got meats, it has dairy, it has bread, it has
Yeah,
even
there's
like
often stuff that you can just eat right there too. A lot of people, bring they'll do food trucks or that kind of thing. So, at least that's how a lot of them are where I'm located,
and I
the
think
closest
that's the way
ones.
it is here. It's kind
Yeah.
of like a little mini festival
Yeah,
often, I mean, it's
exactly.
more than just that.
Mhm.
So
And
there's
people
that,
sell
and
other wares, like jewelry or clothes or all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, it can be a really fun day to go to the farmer's market, and not all farmer's markets on Saturday. There are some that are, I know around where we are, we have some that are at night, like
Mm,
3 to 6. So if that it's hard to get there on the weekend, there are some people that will go to farmers markets at night. So check those out. Also, some farms have a farm stand. Sometimes they're there actually uh, helping you with it, and some are self-service. So please be honest. Pay for whatever you take on those self-service ones. And then the other way to do it is there's also the CSA, which stands for Community Supported Agriculture. That's a model that's been around for a while. You can sign up with a CSA with a farmer's like with a farmer. And so what it means is you're essentially helping to support them through the season. And in exchange, you're getting a box of whatever vegetables, fruits, and whatever else they're going to include in there. There are so many different types of CSAs now. And so you may pay 200 up to, gosh, there's some CSAs are 1,000, but they even have meat in them and dairy and things like that. We even have a bakery that does basically like a CSA
mm.
model, so you can get your little porch drop bakery thing. Strong Arm. Big shout out to Strong Arm Bakery in Oxford, North Carolina, and they have that. So there's that option as well. And often the CSAs will come to you, or they have a more local drop area, so you don't have to necessarily drive to the farm. So check those out. There's multiple. Often they enroll at a certain time of year. So some will do a fall one and a spring one, but often we're looking at January, February as a sign up time, and then they'll start depending on where you are in the country, obviously. So those are some main ways, but also, there's health food stores or natural food stores, or like we have a co-op. Durham, North Carolina has a cooperative, so you become a member, but you don't have to be a member. It's just like a regular grocery store, and they often will have lots of local produce in there from local farmers. We actually have local meat there as well, and so that is another way
A lot of
to do
time
it.
too. I don't know
Gosh,
about
we have like
the Durham one, but yeah, at the one in
oh,
Concord,
ours, yeah.
that one has a lot of
Oh,
local
ours has like
dairy.
7 bakeries.
Yeah,
7
nice.
bakeries. It's crazy. Yeah.
Lots of bread, all the pastries.
Oh, all the bread. Lots of sourdoughs and things like that, although I make my own sourdough, so I'm not gonna buy the bread there, but, um, yeah. Well, part of the reason, and we're gonna talk about gluten and gut health and things later, at another episode because that is a huge loaded topic with gluten-free and all that. But I make my own sourdough because I can control what's in it. I get my flour from a local mill, and I know that it is made just with that. A lot of breads, even if they are sourdough made at a bakery locally, they use an enzyme to extend shelf life. And when they do that, I believe that that enzyme does inhibit, because it's meant to inhibit fungal growth.
Mhm.
It probably does a similar thing to your gut microbiome as well. And so that, in my mind, might be linked to the reduction in our ability to eat breads made in the United States, because you could go to Europe where they don't use that. And lots of people will say they travel to Europe, they don't have a problem eating bread. They come here and they do in our commercial breads. So just a thought on that, because we're talking about soil health, but we're also talking about the linkage between soil health and human health. And one of those is that gut microbiome is very much the same as the soil microbiome, is that what you do to it does kind of lead to whatever outcome you're going to have. Like you have to feed your gut like you have to feed the soil.
You are what you eat.
Exactly.
I
Do you have any other questions, or have I waxed
have
poetic
2
enough about
more.
soil today?
I have
Ooh,
2
okay.
more. What do you think the state of soil health will be in 50 years if farmings if farms continue with current industrial practices? What do you believe the impact will be on human health?
Well, I think if we continue on the way we're doing, and not adopting, and we are adopting pretty fast regenerative agriculture. So I believe that we are finally turning the tide on our soil health practices. However, if we were to continue to abuse our soil and disturb it and not cover it with something, Mother Nature does not like being naked. We need to ensure that the microbes have something to eat. So, not leaving land barren, because when we leave land bare, it is led to be, well, it'll erode either through water or wind, because there's nothing to hold the soil in place. And we have topsoil, and then below that's the subsoil. And we lose topsoil every time you have a rain event with erosion or wind is blowing across, like through what we had at the dust storm or the dust bowl. Sorry. So we only have a certain amount of topsoil left, and certain areas may have thicker amounts of topsoil than other areas of the country. And there's actually a place, and I will try to link to it in the show notes, of that shows how much topsoil we've lost over the last 100 or so years. So if we continue and for 50 years, we probably will have areas that don't have any topsoil, and that will not support life, because the topsoil is the part that supports life. And what that means for us, human health wise, is that our vegetables and fruits and things that grow on the land, and now our animals, if you do eat animal meat or you eat meat, they are like a cow is eating the grass, and they are taking that nutrient in, just like we are the product of what we put in our bodies. The animal agriculture is the product of what they put in their bodies that we then consume. So if we're looking at vegetables and fruits and grains, and it is grown on depleted soil, it is like us basically getting our diet from bags of candy instead of nutrient dense foods. There's just no nutrients there to take up. So if you have depleted soil, it doesn't have the enough nutrients in it. And our vegetables and fruits have been losing nutrient density over the years due to our kind of land abusive agriculture practices. So what it means is we will get less and less nutrients from our food without supplementation. And so it's really, really important that we regenerate our soils, and so that they have the nutrients that can be taken up by the foods that we eat, so that we in turn can be healthier.
Do you think that obviously it's a necessary thing? Because as you're saying, even General Mills has taken over, these regenerative practices, which I mean is a good sign, seeing as they're such a large company. Do you think that we will well, you just forecasted, a pretty bleak future if we don't take over these practices. So, do you think that in 50 years this will just be commonplace farming practices?
I do. I absolutely do. They teach it in schools now where we didn't before, um, which is why climate education is so important. And I think it's important to happen before people go off to college. It should happen in even grade school. Is a component of teaching people about soils and how soils are so important. We would all be naked, cold, and hungry without soil, honestly. So it is super important. I mean, if you think about it, I'm wearing a cotton shirt. That is cotton is grown, it's a crop, it's picked. That comes from that. And even if you wear leather or you wear, okay, if you wear polyester, one, shame on you. But if you're wearing polyester, that's plastic and that is made from petroleum. So,
That's a
okay.
whole
But
other
it
topic that
still
we're gonna
comes
get
out
into
of the earth.
later is microplastics. But anyways,
We digress.
I
But
mean,
it still
and
comes
even
from the earth,
plastic.
right? It's mined. I mean, or it's drilled for or whatever. But
Mhm.
everything that we make comes out of the soil, and it's either mined or it's grown, or if it's a tree, it's a house, whatever, it's the timber, all of it. Everything that we use on a daily basis can be linked back to the soil. And so if we abuse it, and we do when we mine, right? Um, but if you have one of these in your pocket, That's cell phones, those that are just listening and not watching, um, that it uses a very precious metal that is, generally, mostly illegally mined in the, DRC, what is it?
Democratic Republic of Congo.
Yeah, that one. So it is one of those things that's super important. Soil is super important, and I think that we have really realized that. In 2015, the UN, or the United Nations, actually made it the year of the soil, and started to
What
worldwide
year
do a
was
lot.
it?
15.
Okay. Every year should be the year of the soil,
It should
but
be. But I've seen such a huge change in the last 20 years, of people that just regular people I meet on the street when I talk to them about what I do, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's super important." Whereas before, people are like, "Huh? Soil? What? Oh, that's the stuff pick off my fingers." Like, no, that's dirt. So the difference between dirt and soil, soil is the thing that grows everything and is as super important as what you have in your garden. Dirt is the stuff you clean off your pants and out from underneath of your fingernails after having been in the soil.
Gotcha.
Because we say, don't call it dirt, it hurt. But
Mm,
yeah,
we don't wanna hurt the soil's feelings.
no,
It
we
might
don't.
not grow as
Those
well.
little microbes are
Alright, one last question. On an individual level, what can do to help change happen beyond starting their own regenerative farm or homestead?
vote with your dollars, or at least vote by educating others. And I realize buying organic, buying regenerative is more expensive. And it is one of those things that we have lots of things like reduce, reuse, recycle, right? What do we all do? We jump to the third one, recycle. It's reduce. So reduce your use of things that you don't necessarily need, finding a way to limit the consumption of things that are something that will end up in a landfill or a recycling bin. Reuse it. So you have a container like for me, I have my yogurt containers. If I get a yogurt container, I'm going to reuse it for something. And then recycle's the last one. So it's thinking about things like that that will help. It doesn't have to be that you have to do everything. Just one little thing will help in moving the needle that way. And it is, even if it's just planting a little garden, or if you only have a little balcony, planting some herbs, utilizing some things like that, will get you more connected with nature. And simple things like going out and using our local parks and paths and other things help to support those, because when people are outside more and advocate for more green space, that also helps, to ensure that we have things that help the planet, because it's not all just about agriculture. If we pave over all of what isn't being used to raise our food, that's no better either. When we help to save the green space, the trees, and things of that genre, that's also helpful. Get out, get outside, and enjoy what we have, because if we don't take care of it, it will be gone.
So get outside, don't forget to reduce, reuse, and recycle, and support your national parks. Or just
Exactly.
not
Support green.
necessarily national parks, just all parks.
Right? Because, on the local level, on community level, often a government is, maybe it's the town council is going to vote on something, some green space, like a greenway, like a bike path, maybe a rails to trails. So actually, they're doing that in my neighborhood, and there's a bunch of people that are all for it, and there's couple of people that are against it because they don't want somebody riding their bike in their backyard thinking crime will go up. Well, depending on which way you go, you have a right in this country to have your voice heard, or at least one hopes we do. So, should I talk about the book recommendation?
I think so. I think they're ready for it.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for listening to me talk about soil. And one last thing, because we are going to talk about a book, is the book recommendation I have that links into kind of our conversation today. And it is called The Hidden Half of Nature: The Microbial Roots of Life and Health. And it is by David R. Montgomery and Anne Bilke, or Bikley. Sorry about that, Anne Bikley. If you're listening, I apologize for butchering your name. He is, I believe, a geologist, if I can remember. It's been a while since I've read the book. And him and his wife buy a property that has some pretty bad soil on it. And they want to regenerate that soil. They want to put in some gardens. And so he kind of talks about how the soil there is degraded and not healthy and what they're going to do with that. At the same time, his wife is diagnosed with cancer, and she seeks out to find every path to better health and beating the cancer. And one of those is connection with a functional nutritionist. And through her journey of seeking health, is guided to feed her microbiome, and he then begins to start to research both the soil microbes and how to regenerate the soil microbes and the life of his soil, and at the same time linking in the human component of that in the microbiome of the gut. And it's a really interesting read, very well done and backed by lots of science, but it's not a sciencey read. It is a good read. It has lots of wonderful stories in it, and I found it fascinating. So check that out.
And we will link the book in the show notes for you all today, along with any other material from the show that we talked about.
Sounds fantastic. Are you ready to get your apron
I'm
on, girl?
ready to get cooking, to beat you with my fabulous blood orange recipe, and I will reveal it to you in the kitchen. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet. Well, actually, you know what it is because you sent me your recipe and I sent you
Okay,
mine.
I know. That's right.
Yeah,
We have each other's recipes,
yeah.
but it's
But
time
the
for a
viewers don't
throwdown.
know yet.
The viewers don't know, or the listeners don't know, and
Yes.
the listeners are about to find out. So
And
we will see you in the kitchen. Be right back. Today's recipe challenge: blood orange panna cotta, which this time of year, because it's not quite Christmas, I couldn't find any blood oranges. But I figure oranges, close enough. So Lauren is just going to have to settle for that, is how I'm going to make her recipe. So, blood orange panna cotta it is. Although I've read through the recipe, it seems a little fussy. I can already see where I would make some changes. But nonetheless, I will persevere and make it exactly how she wrote it. Here it goes. The first step is to bloom the gelatin, which is a quite typical thing when you're working with a powdered gelatin. Then after that, you're going to mix it with the warmed up coconut milk, which is really super simple. Saving those orange sections that go on for the topping really looks nice afterwards. Pop it in the fridge for 4 hours, and really you're ready to go. It was an easy recipe, but I didn't like those orange cups. Okay. Blood orange panna cotta. And in this case, it's just regular orange panna cotta because I couldn't find blood oranges. And so, let's see how good it is. Okay. It's not bad.
It's not bad.
Yep, it's not bad. Pretty good. The cups, the little orange cups. Yeah, I wouldn't do that again.
hi guys, welcome back to my kitchen. Today I've made my mom's blood orange yogurt cake recipe and I'm super excited to try it. So just my initial thoughts upon cutting into it. I'm excited because it's still a little bit warm from coming out of the oven. And it seems to be fairly moist, which is always good for cake. I don't like a dry cake. I'm hoping that the blood orange comes through, because I was actually able to find blood orange for my recipe. I know that my mom was not able to find blood oranges for the recipe that I gave to her, but they're readily available this time of year in Florida. So I did use blood orange in this, and I'm hoping that that flavor comes through well, because there wasn't a ton of blood orange in it. So it is moist and fairly fluffy. When you make this cake, you whip egg white and then fold it into it, so that helps to give it like a nice airy texture. It does also have almonds in it, or almond flour, which can sometimes tend to make things a bit more dense, but I don't feel like you really get too much of that here. In the recipe that my mom shared, she also added that you can put a Grand Marnier glaze on top, and I decided to forego that just because I'm staying away from sugar and I'm already trying the cake, so that was enough sugar for me. But I really like it. It's really good. I would definitely make it again. I would put my own personal flair on it, and I would probably switch out the butter for olive oil, just because in this kind of cake I really like the flavor of olive oil. And I also would, before baking, I would put some like sliced layers of blood orange just for presentation wise. I think that would look really nice on top of it. And then maybe do the Grand Marnier on top of that. But overall, I give it a 9 out of 10. Thank you guys. I hope you try both of our recipes and share which one you like better, and maybe how you would improve or change them based on your personal preferences. Let us know in the comments. We'll see you next time.
That's it from our kitchen this week.
But don't hang up your aprons just yet.
Next time, we're diving into, drumroll, uncovering the mystery of mycotoxins.
Yep, that's right. I'm in the hot seat. But I'm sure to win the food fight with my asparagus recipe.
We'll just have to see about that. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.